So really basic question to start off, was this season better than Luke Cage season 1? And the simple answer is yes. There were major problems, but yes, it was better than season 1. And for me, season 1 of Luke Cage is actually the worst MCU Netflix show. I know Iron Fist got a lot of flack, but for me, it had a better through storyline than Luke Cage. Luke Cage, the first half of season 1 of Luke Cage was phenomenal. It was a bit slow, but the storyline was great. The character depth was great, especially with Cottonmouth there. I mean, I really wished they hadn't killed him. Now I'm sure Marvel wished they hadn't killed him as well, because man's an Oscar winner now at this point. But the second half of the season with Diamondback and Mariah, it just was weak, and I felt it would bleed through into this season. Fortunately, I think it was more the Diamondback storyline than the Mariah storyline that was the problem with season 1. Mariah really came into her own in season 2 and had a real character arc overall, which was really good to see. The only major problem I have with it is by making it a better show than season 1, the way they've done it. They've made Luke Cage a less likable character, and they've made him in a way which is not really the way he is in the comics at all. Like, if you pick a random comic of Luke Cage is a nice guy, he's a good guy, he's a good human being. In this, not so much. Yeah, and I see some tendencies in him where I don't like them, they don't fit his character, and as I said, although it's made it a better show, it's detrimented his character as a whole. And all this means is for next season, he can have a redemption story essentially and come back to being the Luke Cage we know and love, but it was an annoying part of this story. The truth is, Luke Cage was actually the best part of Luke Cage season 1, which I suppose is a good thing. He's the Captain America of the Defenders group. He is the one who's morally straight, he's morally right, he'll do the right thing at all times. And in this season, that was sort of ripped away from him a bit. He had to go down another route, which I don't think fits the character. I don't think he does at all. And I think they've actually done disservice to the character by doing what they did. There was a lot of social stuff and political stuff in this show. It wasn't as bad for me as Jessica Jones season 2 in that case. Actually, at the beginning I just said Luke Cage season 1 is my least favorite Marvel Netflix season. No, it's not. Jessica Jones season 2 is definitely my least favorite. It didn't feel as rammed down your throat as it did in season 2 of Jessica Jones. Like, I love season 1 Jessica Jones, like I said. My favorite Netflix show, and season 2 is my least favorite. Such a stark difference between the two, and one of them took itself too seriously, and that was a really big problem with it. I feel this show, it blended in these social commentaries better than what Jessica Jones season 2 did, but it still was a bit too much. Like, at times I was just like, okay, well, my people, you're just, I mean, it's like, this is like a pro-black show, and some people take it in a very positive way. Some people can obviously take it in a very negative way, like them being like black power and all this stuff. It's like, you know, our people, it's like we're all humans at the end of the day, love. I mean, especially Mariah, like, we're all humans, remember this? Yeah, I might have not the same color skin tone as you, but I'm a human being. Like, it's not to do with the color of your skin, it's to do with the content of your character. There you go. Someone said that one time. Yeah. Something that was really improved on compared to season 1 was definitely the storyline. I think that they had a Jamaican storyline, which was the Bushmaster storyline, and it really fit the season. I think the main problem with this season was, again, like Jessica Jones season 2 in a way, it didn't really have a villain. As in, there was a villain, but it turned out the villain was not, he was doing it for his own moral reasons, but it still wasn't right what he was doing, in no way, shape or form. But he wasn't really a villain in that way. He was an antagonist, but he wasn't a villain. And I think that you got Mariah to be the actual villain of the season, but when the season ends, you sort of think, well, maybe she wasn't a villain after all. She was, 100%, but she was more an antagonist than a villain. If you think of a villain, you think of a Purple Man, or you think of the Hand. But in this, it was like a bit so-so. But it was dealt better than in Jessica Jones season 2. It keeps on coming back to Jessica Jones season 2, I'll be honest, because it's still in my mind as being shit. The development from Shade as well was really, really good. He was probably actually my favorite character from this show. Growth-wise, depth-wise, he really had a 180. And I think he's gonna come to serve the show a lot more in the next season and the season after, potentially, than he even was in this season. Do expect some cameos from some Iron Fist cast members. There are a couple of episodes with them in there. Be ready for that, because they are actually pretty fun episodes. They're probably the funnest episodes out of all of them. Obviously, the only problem with this show and the Netflix universe as a whole is you need to watch the other seasons and the entire universe and world as a whole to understand what's happening in this show. I think that if a layman watched this show, they'd be like, who watched season 1 of Luke Cage and didn't watch any of the other stuff, they'd be like, what happened to Misty's arm? Who is this Chinese girl, as in Colleen Wing? Who's this white guy with a glowing fist? Like, what's happening here? And I think that is a major problem with it. You can't really do much about it because it's just the way they're building the world out and it's how it works. But you're committing a lot to them being committed to the shows and them staying on top of it. Because I think the only show you can watch without being out of the loop with this is probably The Punisher. If you didn't watch that, you would be nowhere near confused with any of this. But they mentioned Daredevil in this show, they mentioned Jessica Jones in this show, they mentioned the Avengers as well, but they mentioned other Defenders. And that's maybe the problem with it, is you're putting a lot of work on people watching the show. Because think about the amount of time people would have had to spend. I've watched all of them, but think about the time people are going to have spent watching all these shows. There's Daredevil season 1, Daredevil season 2, Jessica Jones season 1, Jessica Jones season 2, Luke Cage season 1, Luke Cage season 2, Iron Fist season 1, The Defenders, and The Punisher. That's 9 seasons, and each of those have 13 episodes apart from The Defenders, which has 8. So 8 times 13 is like 96, 100, shitting hell. Wow, 104 hours. There's 104 hours there, plus 8, 112 hours. There's 112 hours of content, and that's a lot of stuff to watch. Like, honestly, it's a shit ton of content to watch, and I think they need to maybe pull away from that a little bit and make their stories more coherent. I think it's going to be a problem going forward in this as well. Because if you look at the movies, yeah, I mean, shit, there's 20 movies, but you add that movie time by, it's 40 hours and there's 20 movies with a ton of different characters. You won't get bored. I think there's a risk of people getting bored of the Netflix universe if they can't spice it up somehow. And I think they did a good job here with the storyline, the characters, the building, the world building, and it was well done. I just think there needs to be an extra little pizzazz, which wasn't there in Jessica Jones season 2, and I don't think was there in this season of Luke Cage either. So what would I give this? What would I give this season out of 10? Well, it was better than season 1, which I think gave it 6.5. It is a solid 7 out of 10. I probably enjoyed it more with the same amount as Iron Fist season 1. So I'll give it a 7. Yeah, not as good as Defenders though. That was decent. That was like 7.5. Anyway, guys, if you did enjoy this video, please do like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel down there. If you didn't, then Luke Cage himself will come after you. Now, obviously, if you haven't watched this season, man's a nice guy. He's not really gonna do anything. Sweet Christmas and all that jazz. But if you watch this season, you know how much of a savage this man can be, and you don't want that. You really don't. So just subscribe anyway to avoid that. I've been NarendraTheComic. You have been great, and I'll see you next time. Skadoosh.